The New York Mets' incredible run has ended today. They lost in the NLCS to the Dodgers in Game 6, but the question is, what do they do now? Because that was a great season. They're going to be losing about $170 million worth of cap space this year, so a lot of it's going to be coming off the books, giving them money to spend. So I expect them to go a little bit crazy this year, especially with Steve Cohen's deep pockets and David Stern's arrival for the last year. So, Mets have playoff aspirations once again since they made it to the NLCS this year. So let's just hop right into what I think they should do this year. So first things first, they are going to have to bring back a couple of guys. They have a lot of people not on contract this year. A couple names that are notable are Alonso, Iglesias, Winker, Stanek, Manaea, Severino, Quintana, and a ton more. JD Martinez. There's a lot of guys that are not going to be on the books this year. So what they really need to do is figure out the guys that need to stay. And obviously, I believe Pete Alonso should come back, but it has to be for the proper price. I think giving him 25 mil AAV is a lot of money to be giving him, but, I think it's doable. I think 25 mil would be okay, but that is the max. I'd prefer to give him 23, but realistically, I think he ends up taking 25. I would like to have Jose Iglesias back. He was a spark of life on this team, and, if he's consistent with his bat and his glove like he was during the season, he's a very good depth piece to have. Jesse Winker, I would also like to have back, about 7 mil AAV. Iglesias was about 5 mil AAV. Winker I'd like to have back. It's just another bat in the outfield. Gives us a little bit of flexibility with the outfield, the DH spot. Winker was also a spark of life on this team. He brought a different energy, and he loves being a Met. So I could totally see him taking a good deal to stay with the Mets, and I fully believe that they will bring him back. I would also like to bring back Ryan Stanek. He had an incredible season. He was a huge help out of the bullpen, kind of our setup guy for Edwin Diaz to come in and shut the game down. And I think there is multiple reasons that he should come back. I'm thinking about 5 to 6 million AAV on him. And Sean Manaea, he has a option right now. I believe he's going to opt out because it's 13.5. He could get more money than that. And I believe Stearns and Cohen are going to offer him a qualifying offer, which will be around 21.5. And I think he'll accept that. So it gives us a lefty arm in the rotation that is a very huge piece for this team. So just off of basic re-signings, it's going to be about $62.5 million, which would bring the payroll up to around $204 million. Now, there are a couple guys that have aberration options as well. McGill being one of them for $2.1 million. I would like to bring him back. David Peterson, a great arm we had this year who made a real resurgence this year. $4.4 million. I would like him to be back. Sean Reed Foley, $900K. It's cheap. Bring him back. Let him stick it in AAA. If we need him, we need him. Luis Torrens, solid backup catcher. I'd be okay with bringing him back for 1.1 mil, which is his ABR. And then Daniel Nunez, also would like to have him back. Was a great arm, but sadly got injured. So don't see a reason to not bring him back. So it's going to look like an $8.5 million total for that. So everything combined, it is $71 million to re-sign all of our players. So that would bring the payroll to about $211,750,000, which is still going to give them a lot of money to spend. So now we're going to get into some signings that I believe they should make this year. So our first one is going to be an outfielder, because the Mets are desperate for a big bat in the outfield. A lot of people are saying Juan Soto. As everybody knows, the Yankees just made the World Series, so I find it very improbable that he leaves. I feel like Cashman is going to throw whatever the hell he needs to keep Soto in the Bronx. So what I think the Mets are going to end up doing is taking a stab at Anthony Santander. And the reason I like this is he has a massive bat, and he's consistent. He's hitting bombs very constantly, and he doesn't hit for a terribly low average as well. His OBP is around 307, slugging at 469, and a 9.5 WAR, and 113 D+. Just an amazing bat, amazing player to add to this roster. And if they're looking for a big bat that is going to hit bombs, this is a perfect guy for it. And I think they could get him for around 15 to 17 million AAV, which I think is totally realistic. And I think bringing him in would be a massive improvement over our outfield now. We have Marte, Nimmo, and Tyrone Taylor and Harrison Bader, which they're not going to stay. So I could totally see Nimmo moving back to center, bringing in Santander to play right field, and left field I will get into in a little bit. What I would also like to see them do is bring in an elite pitcher, an absolute number one. So there's a couple of guys here that I think they can get. The first one is Corbin Burns. He is the one I want most. He's just an incredible arm. He was Cy Young contention for the Orioles this year. He just had a ridiculously good pitching year. Around 2.92 ERA, 194 innings pitched 32 games, and a 3.7 pitching WAR. So he's going to ask for a lot of money. Everybody knows it. I don't think he's going to go back with Baltimore. They have a lot of guys they need to pay in the future, such as Henderson and Rutschman. There's a lot of guys they got to pay. So I think they'll let him walk, and I could totally see the Mets being very aggressive towards him. And I think David Stearns being here is an extreme help for this as well. As you know, Burns was a Brewer at one point in his career when David Stearns was with the Brewers. So they're pretty familiar with each other, and I could totally see him having a reunion with David Stearns. But for how much, you may ask? He's going to ask for a lot of fucking money, that's for damn sure. I think they're going to give him around 33 million AAV, which would be an incredibly good deal in my opinion. We're going to have to pay an elite guy a lot of money. And it's a very slim elite pitcher market. There's some guys that are good, maybe for like 2s and 3s, but there's not a lot of aces on this market. And Burns is the hierarchy here. So I'm hoping to get him for around 33 mil. Another pitcher that could be used, these two go hand in hand here. I'm going to say Max Fried and Yusei Kikuchi. I'll start with Max Fried. Since we know him very well, he is a pitcher for the Atlanta Braves. He was dealing with some injuries over the last couple of years, hoping he could get it figured out. Maybe he'll be good now. But when he wasn't injured, he's an elite pitcher, usually around a 2.9 ERA when he's fully healthy. And his pitch mix is very good as well. He's got fastball, cutter, slider, changeups, and it's just really good. He's a very good pitcher. And he's a lefty. Another lefty arm, I wouldn't complain. I could also see them taking a stab at Yusei Kikuchi, who is a little bit older, but, he's also just as efficient as Max Fried. Even though, the only thing about him is he's a little bit older, so I'm not sure if that would necessarily be a good idea for the Mets. But I could totally see him coming to this team. Who would I prefer to have? I think I'd prefer to have Max Fried. I don't know how realistic it is that he comes here, especially if we get Corbin Burns. I doubt we get Max Fried as well. If we do get Corbin Burns, I could see us maybe getting Walker Buehler for the back end of the rotation. He dealt with a lot of injuries as well. I'd like to have him. I think he'd be a nice piece to have. He's very good when he's healthy, and, he's been dealing with a lot of injuries as of lately. So if they could get him in on, maybe not an insanely expensive deal, I think it could benefit the Mets in a big way. Because I have him and Tyler McGill at the back end of the rotation if, obviously, Buehler comes to this team, which I think it all depends on who the Mets' big signing for pitching really is. Now, everybody knows the Mets bullpen needs improvement, massive improvements. So I think they're going to go out there and get the best guy on the market. They're going to go grab Tanner Scott, and he's a massive, big lefty arm. I would love to have him. 1.75 ERA for the Padres this year. If you could get him for whatever it takes, I would 100% do it. I said 10 million AAV. I think that's realistic. He could be a little bit less, maybe 12 AAV. But I think the Mets should go out and get him, give another reliable arm in this pen to go with Diaz and Stanek. Also with Reed, Garrett, and Nunez. There's a couple of other guys I want to mention here. Jonathan Loaiza, pitcher from the Yankees. He has a very nice pitch mix. I would not complain to have him on this team as well. He didn't pitch at all this year, and, it's because of injury. So I'd be willing to take a stab on him, give him a shot, and see what he's got, because I think he can be a very solid pitcher for this team because of his pitch mix if we can get him on a nice deal. And that's what David Stearns is good at, getting guys that aren't massive names for pretty solid deals. I was hoping to get him around $5 million AAV. And then my last arm I would like to get is Aaron Bummer from the Atlanta Braves. Another arm, another lefty, 31 years old, had a pretty okay season this year. His pitch mix is also very nice, so another lefty to round up the pen would be very helpful. Pretty much would give us a balance because Stanek's righty, Nunez righty, Diaz righty, and then, say we grab Tanner Scott and whoever else. I think it would be a very important person to grab here. I'd be very happy with him. And, 3.58 ERA isn't terrible. As a reliever, you'd hope for a little bit better. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to complain. A lefty arm's a lefty arm. So try to get what you can. I got him for about $8 million AAV. So as of now, with all the signings that I'm hoping for, I will give the roster in a little bit. The team payroll is looking about $296,750,000. I think that's very doable, spend around 85 in free agency, get some guys, get the arms. That's what we really need. But we're not going to stop there, because I believe we are going to make we're going to make a trade, and it's going to be a big trade. It's going to be the biggest trade since we got Francisco Lindor. And I believe the Mets have two guys on their list that they should be going for. One being Garrett Crochet. Is it realistic we get him? I'm honestly not sure. The White Sox are a dumpster fire at this moment, and maybe we get him, maybe we don't. If we don't get him, it sucks. I'd really love to have him. He's a ridiculously good lefty arm, but at the end of the day, he's going to be very hard to trade for. Had a great season in Chicago, so I don't know the odds of them really trading him. Ownership is looking like they're going to sell. It's just a lot of weird shit going on in Chicago, but this is an estimated trade. If they do end up getting him, I have the Mets giving up Jeff McNeil, Kevin Parada, and Jacob Reimer. I could also see them throwing in an arm in there too, which would be probably a good idea. Maybe like Mac Vasil, but I feel like that's what they should do. Maybe go trade for an arm if they don't get Burns. Give up what they need. Get the arm that we really want. I can also see the Mets grabbing Brent Rooker from the Athletics, the Sacramento A's, because they're a dumpster fire as well. They have to play games in a AAA stadium. It's going to be hard for them to come by money, so they're not even going to be able to pay him when it comes time, I feel like. So, I could see them just dumping him off to a team to get some prospects that they don't have to pay. And I could see the Mets giving up Mike Vasil, Colin Houck, and Daverson Gutierrez. Catcher, pitcher, shortstop for Brent Rooker. Maybe even instead of Houck, give up Alex Ramirez. I think that the Mets should go out and maybe grab Brent Rooker if they can't get Santander or Juan Soto. If they don't get Juan Soto, I could totally see them grabbing Santander and Brent Rooker. Rooker's not old. Santander's a little bit up there, so, I'm not concerned. But I could totally see them making a move for Rooker because, give a little more outfield depth. Marte's like 36. Can't expect him to be playing every single day. So if they don't get Rooker, McNeil will probably stay with the team, and he will mix in the outfield as well. So my hopeful roster is going to go like this. So starting pitcher is going to be either Burns or Crochet. I'm hoping to get Burns. I feel like that's the most realistic thing to happen. Crochet, not really. But Burns, definitely. Number 2 will be Kodai Senga. Number 3 will be Sean Manaea after they bring him back for about $21 million. David Peterson as our number 4. And number 5 is going to be either Tyler McGill or Walker Buehler, depending on what they end up spending, if they get Corbin Burns or not. I could totally see them taking a stab at Walker Buehler if they need to grab another arm. Relief pitchers, Ryan Stanek gonna return. Diaz gonna return. Well, he's not. Diaz on the team. Garrett's on the team. Nunez will return. Either bring back Brooks Raley on aberration or grab Aaron Bummer from the Braves. Grab Tanner Scott and grab Losaiga. That's what the pen would look like. I'd be very satisfied with that. And our positional players, Alvarez obviously staying with the team. Torrens bring back on that 1.1 aberration. Pete Alonso hopefully comes back. If we don't get him, I would be perfectly okay with them going out, maybe grabbing Christian Walker, or maybe they don't grab somebody and we see Vientos play first base and they trade for Brent Rooker and he ends up being our DH. At second base, we'll have Luis Angel Acuna. Iglesias will be backing him up. Our MVP, Francisco Lindor, I hope they make him captain. That would be awesome. We will get Ronnie Mauricio back to play third base. We'll have Winker for the outfield. He can also be our DH, say Vientos ends up going to first base because we don't get Alonso back, which I don't think is going to happen. I think we'll get him back. Nimmo to center field. Hopefully, I want Brent Rooker for left field. Santander in right. Marte as a backup. Mark Vientos as our DH. And our utility guy is going to be Brett Baty. I think Brett Baty is going to have his resurgence this year. Don't forget, a lot of people were crapping on Mark Vientos when he first came up. He couldn't hit. He couldn't do anything. So they sent him back down. And, they did the same thing with Brett Baty. He was hitting. He got injured. And then he couldn't hit anymore. So they sent him back down to AAA. So I think he's going to get it figured out. His glove has always been very nice. And I think we could see him have a breakout year. So that is going to be it for today's video. If you guys like this roster or, are thinking to bring in other people, agree with who I'm signing, let me know. I'd love to have a discussion with you. I enjoyed making this, so I'd be willing to talk about anything. So that will be it for today. If you guys did enjoy, like, subscribe, and let me know what you think. And as always, let's fucking go Mets, baby.